In July of 2014, a young German man walked into an airport in Varna, Bulgaria, wearing the same clothes he'd been vacationing in just days before. He looked nervous, restless. Security cameras caught him walking, and then, out of nowhere, he bolted, leaving behind his passport, phone, and wallet. He ran out of the terminal, climbed a high fence, disappeared into a field, and was never seen again. His name was Lars Mittank. In the years since his disappearance, Lars has become one of the most widely recognized missing persons on the internet. His final moments, caught on CCTV footage, have sparked millions of views and even more questions. Was he running from someone? From something? Today, we'll be looking into the mysterious disappearance of Lars Mittank. Number 1. Who was Lars? Lars Joachim Mittank was born on February 9, 1986 in Berlin, Germany. He grew up in the quiet town of Itzehoe in Schleswig-Holstein, which he lived in most of his life. Those who knew him described him as friendly, grounded, and responsible. He worked at a local power plant, maintained close relationships with his friends, and was in a committed relationship with his girlfriend. Lars was also a devoted son. After his father suffered from a stroke, Lars began helping his parents regularly, often visiting them after long shifts at work. I mean, you understand, he was just a normal guy. Nothing was unusual or particularly troubling about him. By all accounts, he lived a normal life. But that's what makes his story scary, because it just goes to show it can happen to anyone. In July 2014, during a trip to Bulgaria, something happened, and within days, Lars would just vanish without a trace. Number 2. What happened to him? It was Lars Mittank's first time traveling abroad. In late June 2014, he flew to Bulgaria with 5 of his childhood friends and former schoolmates, all in their late 20s. They went on a summer holiday in Varna, a lively beach resort, along the country's Black Sea coast. They spent a week relaxing in the sun, swimming, playing football, and going out at night. According to his friends, Lars seemed happy. He was in good spirits and enjoying the trip, but a few small things stood out. Tim Schultz, one of the friends, recalled that Lars wasn't eating much. He would have a bowl of soup or a small plate of salad, and that was it, he said. But nothing else seemed unusual. Lars was still being himself, relaxed, and whatever was going on, if anything, didn't raise alarms. Then, on the night of July 6th, just one day before their scheduled flight back home to Germany, something changed. While out at a bar in town, Lars got into a heated argument with another group of German tourists. The fight was reportedly over football. Lars was a fan of SV Werder Bremen, and the others supported FC Bayern Munich. At some point, the tension escalated. Later that night, Lars separated from his group outside of a restaurant and vanished. He reappeared the next morning at their resort and claimed that he had been attacked, beaten by 4 men who he believed had been hired by the football fans he clashed with at the bar. He told his friends the attack left him with a jaw injury and ruptured eardrum. Concerned, Lars visited a doctor in Varna. The doctor reportedly confirmed the eardrum injury and advised him not to fly, warning the change in cabin pressure could make it worse. Lars was prescribed an antibiotic, cefuroxime, 500 milligrams, and told to delay his return home by at least a day. When the group checked out of the hotel later that day, Lars made an unexpected announcement that he would not be joining them on the flight back to Hamburg. He told them he'd be fine and insisted that they return home without him. Despite their concerns, he reassured them that he would catch the next flight once he was cleared to travel. That was the last time they saw him. So, after deciding not to board the flight with his friends, on July 7th, 2014, Lars Mittank moved into a nearby budget accommodation, Hotel Keller in Varna. It was a small, inexpensive hotel located close to the airport, in one of the city's rougher neighborhoods, reportedly known for crime, prostitution, and black market activity. At first, everything seemed fine, but within 24 hours, Lars's behavior would spiral into a disturbing turn. That night, he called his mother, Sandra, speaking in a whisper. He told her that people were trying to rob or kill him, and he urged her to cancel his credit cards. Hotel CCTV footage from that evening captured Lars pacing the halls, peering anxiously out the windows, and hiding in the elevator. Around 1 a.m., he left the hotel for about an hour before returning. Where he went during that time remains unknown. And by the morning of July 8th, Lars was still showing signs of distress. He called his mother again, saying that people were following him and were getting closer. Despite being visibly paranoid and agitated, he checked out of the hotel and took a trip to Varna Airport. He sent a text to his mother that he had arrived and he intended to fly home that day, and before boarding, he visited the airport medical center to confirm whether he was fit to fly. There, he met Dr. Kosta Kostov. According to Kostov, Lars was nervous and erratic throughout the visit. Although the doctor reassured him that he was well enough to fly, Lars became increasingly anxious, particularly after a construction worker entered the room. The airport was undergoing renovation at the time, and the workers wore uniforms. Seeing the man, Lars panicked and he reportedly shouted, "I don't want to die here, I have to get out of here." And then, without warning, he bolted from the doctor's office, leaving behind all of his personal belongings, his luggage, wallet, passport, and mobile phone. Surveillance footage captured what happened next. Lars ran out of the terminal, through the parking area, and across the airport grounds. He reached a high barbed wire fence at the airport's edge, jumped it, and sprinted across a sunflower field. The final footage shows him disappearing into the fields. That was the last confirmed sighting of Lars Mittank. Number 3. The aftermath. In the days and weeks following Lars Mittank's disappearance, his family, friends, and investigators were left with more questions than answers. He was the outdoors type, and he had some knowledge of hunting, fishing, and basic survival. Could he have managed to live off the land after fleeing the airport? Some local experts doubted it. The area surrounding Varna Airport is mostly open fields with little shelter, food, or water. Summers are harsh, with temperatures often reaching the mid-90s Fahrenheit. Police brought in drones and cadaver dogs, even using a helicopter to sweep a 20-kilometer radius, and they found nothing, not a single trace. Sandra, his mother, hired a private investigator named Andreas Gutig. He flew to Varna, pored over the airport surveillance footage, combed through hospital records, and visited homeless shelters, searching for any unidentified patients who might match Lars's description. He found nothing. Flyers were distributed throughout the region, 180 centimeters tall, blonde hair, scar on his left forearm, but nothing. Despite the odds, Sandra had never given up hope. "There's a good chance he'll come back," she once said. "He just needs my help." Over the years, there have been alleged sightings. A truck driver claimed to see someone who looked like Lars hitchhiking on a remote road near Varna a year after the disappearance. Others reported spotting a homeless man in Poland who bore a striking resemblance. One Reddit user swore they met him in Canada, writing, "He looked rough, almost homeless. I'm 99.9% sure it's him." But what would he be doing in Canada? In 2019, another truck driver, this time in Germany, picked up a hitchhiker near Dresden. Later, after learning about the case, he realized the man looked like an older version of Lars. Same build, long hair, beard, tired eyes, prominent cheekbones, but as with the others, nothing could be confirmed. Some claims were more disturbing. In 2016, someone claiming to have access to information about Lars contacted the family and asked for money. Desperate for answers, the Mittanks paid 40,000 euros, but they never heard back. Whether the person was a scammer remains unclear, but the loss was devastating. That same year, hope briefly flared again. Police in Porto Velho, Brazil, found a man wandering barefoot along a highway. Disoriented and confused, he had no ID, and he couldn't even remember his name. He bore a strong resemblance to Mars. A photo of him in a hospital bed circulated widely online. Could it be him? But it wasn't. This man was Anton Pelipa, a Canadian humanitarian worker who had gone missing 5 years earlier. He was reunited with his family, but still, Sandra clung to the hope that one day her son might have the same ending. "If my child is in trouble, then I have to help," she said. "I have a feeling that he needs me." Nearly 4 years after his disappearance, Lars had become one of the most talked about missing persons on YouTube. Clips of his final moments, fleeing barefoot from the airport, appeared in countless mystery compilations, and yet nothing new has come to light. Despite international attention, online discourse, private investigators, and media coverage in both Germany and Bulgaria, Lars Mittank has never been found. He simply vanished. Number 4. Theories. In the years since Lars Mittank vanished, countless theories have emerged in an attempt to explain what drove a seemingly ordinary young man to flee an airport in panic and disappear without a trace. One of the earliest and most persistent theories suggests that Lars wasn't hallucinating when he told his mother he was being followed. According to this theory, the 4 men who allegedly assaulted him on the night of July 6th in Varna may have continued to stalk him in the days that followed. It's been suggested that Lars might have provoked them further, perhaps during the fight or after escaping, and feared retaliation. This could explain his growing paranoia, especially once his friends had left him alone in a foreign country. But there are holes in this theory. No one else, including his friends or witnesses, ever reported seeing anyone suspicious in those few days. And Lars himself seemed calm and composed until the days after his friend flew home. So if there were no men following him, then who or what was he running from? Well, another theory suggests that Lars somehow became entangled in organized crime during his time in Varna. In this version, the men who attacked him weren't just football fans, they were criminals. After the fight, they may have made him an offer, help them transport drugs, or face serious serious consequences. The theory speculates that Lars agreed out of fear. His decision to stay behind while his friends returned to Germany was then not just about an injury, it was a cover. The location of Hotel Keller, in a crime-heavy district known for trafficking and black market activities, adds another layer of credibility to this theory. In this version, Lars's odd behavior at the hotel, his whispered phone calls to his mother, and his panic at the airport are all signs of men caught in something far bigger than he could handle. But again, there's little hard evidence to support this. No drugs were found in Lars's luggage, he had no criminal record, and no known ties to any organization, and no motive. He didn't speak Bulgarian or Russian, and he had no prior experience with smuggling or trafficking. And if he were truly being coerced, then why didn't he go to the police or tell his friends? I'm sure somebody would have been able to help him. Now, a less explored but intriguing theory centers on Dr. Kosta Kostov, the airport physician who had treated Lars on the morning of his disappearance. Over time, Dr. Kosta gave conflicting accounts of what happened in the examination room. We mentioned the version where he said a construction worker came into the room, scaring Lars, but in another, it was a man in an airport uniform, and a third version claimed the man's identity was entirely unknown. Police later tracked down someone thought to be this mystery person, only to find out that he wasn't even in Bulgaria that day. The inconsistencies are troubling. Why would someone walk into a private medical exam without a reason? Why was an airline employee supposedly searching for Lars so early at 9 a.m. when his flight wasn't until 4:20 p.m.? And how could they have known where he was? Authorities have ruled out Costa as a suspect. There's no known motive, but the contradictions in his testimony have led some to believe that either he was lying or that something deeper and more alarming took place in that room. Unfortunately, that exam room was one of the few blind spots in the airport. There are no CCTV cameras documenting what actually happened. But, without a doubt, the most widely accepted theories around Lars Mittank's disappearance point to a sudden mental health crisis, or a rare medical reaction. Some believe that Lars suffered some kind of psychological break in the final days of his trip, an episode that might explain his anxiety, erratic behavior, and ultimately his desperate flight from the airport. One of the first suspects in this theory is the antibiotic Lars was prescribed, cefprozil, a cephalosporin used to treat infections like the ruptured eardrum that he had. While this drug is widely used in Bulgaria, it's less common in Germany, and German health officials have warned about rare but serious side effects, such as paranoia, hallucinations, and drug-induced psychosis. Those side effects are extremely rare, but they're not impossible, especially when mixed with other substances. Lars had been drinking during the vacation, and it's unclear whether he may have taken other medications, prescription or recreational, and that could have interacted poorly with cefprozil. Adding to the fuel, his prescribed dosage was 500 milligrams, considered high for that medication. Some experts believe that a combination of high dosage, previous alcohol use, and psychological stress would have triggered a reaction. What's even more troubling is that Lars himself seemed suspicious of the drug. On the night his paranoia began, he texted his mother, "What is Cefzil 500?" a question that suggests that he was feeling unwell and unsure of what he had been prescribed. However, this theory hits a wall. According to Dr. Costa, he never even took the antibiotic. He didn't fill the prescription, Costa said, so his behavior couldn't have been a result of that. I can't think of a single reason why he left my office in such a panic. I'm still confused. If anything Costa said is to be believed, if not the medication, then maybe it was something deeper. Some believe Lars may have experienced the early signs of schizophrenia, a condition that often presents in young adults before the age of 30. Symptoms can include paranoia, delusions, fear of being followed, and intense sensory experiences, many of which Lars displayed. His age, stress levels, and the timing all align with the onset of such a disorder. But his family insists that he had no history of mental illness, and no doctors back home had ever considered him a risk. Another possibility is a more severe, undiagnosed brain condition. Some have speculated that Lars may have suffered from a neurological event such as a concussion, repeated brain trauma, or even small aneurysms. This could have caused the symptoms like confusion, panic, or even retrograde amnesia, especially if he was convinced that something was deeply wrong with his health, but he wasn't being taken seriously. This could explain why he fled both the hospital and the airport's doctor office. Perhaps he believed that he was dying and no one was listening. There are also theories involving hypochondria or psychological trauma following the alleged assault, pushing him into a sort of spiral of fear and paranoia. But even these ideas struggle to explain everything. Lars was still functioning. He was coherent coherent enough to navigate travel logistics, contact his mother multiple times, and manage banking and phone services. He may have been deeply distressed, but he wasn't completely disconnected from reality. The tragic truth is, despite countless attempts to analyze and understand his behavior, no theory fully explains what pushed Lars to run out of that airport. Whether it was mental illness, a bad reaction to medication, or the invisible weight of psychological trauma, whatever happened, it left Lars alone, vulnerable, and ultimately missing. Number 5. Conclusion. After going through everything, every report, theory, and bit of footage, I don't think there's one simple answer to what happened to Lars Mittank. What makes this case so difficult is that it doesn't follow a clean path. There's no definitive proof of foul play, but there's also no clear evidence of a mental health crisis either. What I believe is that Lars's disappearance was a result of several small things stacking up, until they became too much to carry. Lars wasn't unstable. He was a guy with a job, a girlfriend, and a family that deeply cared about him. But he was also tired from work, responsibility, and stress back home. That kind of pressure wears a person down, and you don't always notice it until it's too late. Then came the trip to Bulgaria. What was supposed to be a break turned into a nightmare. On the fight of July 6th, whether random or something deeper, left him psychologically hurt and possibly mentally shaken. It's entirely possible that he suffered a mild head injury, something like a concussion, and wasn't taken seriously at the time. That kind of trauma doesn't always show right away, but it does mess with your sense of reality, your fear response, and your thoughts. And after his friends left, things only got worse. He was alone in a foreign country, staying in a sketchy hotel in a neighborhood known for crime. He wasn't eating, he wasn't sleeping. He started whispering to his mother, convinced that people were after him. Whether or not that fear was rooted in something real, to him, it was real. And that's what matters. I don't think he was involved in drugs or crime, nor do I think he staged anything. I think that he was just a scared man spiraling, mentally, emotionally, physically, and no one around him knew how bad it really was. Maybe it was fear, maybe trauma, maybe paranoia brought on by the stress, or by something undiagnosed, or even neurological. But whatever happened in that airport, it wasn't calculated. And what happened after? Well, that's the part that none of us can answer. He could have collapsed in the forest, he could have kept on running, he could be living somewhere right now, without his memories, lost in a life that isn't his. I hope he's still out there, I really do, because whatever led to that moment, it wasn't evil. And maybe, if we keep on talking about him with care and not just curiosity, we might still find him. Lars Mittank was more than just a viral clip. He was a son, a friend, and a young man with a future. His story deserves to be told with the hope that one day he might come home. Do you have some thoughts about this whole story? Let me know in the comments. And if you have some suggestions about cases that you would like to hear more about in depth, also let me know. Be careful, my friends, and I will see you in the next one.